Every Christmas for me has always been an extraordinary experience. In fact, my first Christmas was really my first year at Ananda, which was 1971. Of course, I was 24 years old, so it wasn't literally my first Christmas, but I was raised in a Jewish family. And of course, being raised in America, especially in those years, Christmas was an integral part of the culture in which I lived and the schools that I went to. But being raised in a Jewish family, I never related to Jesus in the way, of course, that his devotees would. But nor did I have any prejudice against him. I felt very fortunate in that respect. In fact, I remember reading Master's commentary on the Bible, which was unpublished at that point, and it was just Xeroxed articles from old SRF magazines. And I remember being astonished by the revolution in spiritual understanding that commentary created in my awareness. It made me wonder how many other things that I just accepted as true were actually myths created by perhaps well-meaning but not genuinely enlightened souls. So that very first Christmas when I was at Ananda Village and we were living at the seclusion retreat, and we had a very intimate Christmas celebration, maybe about 40 of us with Swami Kriyananda. The seclusion retreat was and still is 3 miles back on an unpaved road. That particular Christmas there was a blizzard, so we were absolutely isolated. And Kalyani was living at Ananda then, and she's is a beautiful musician. She plays the piano and has a beautiful singing voice, and she was classically trained. And she sat at the harmonium, which is normally played with one hand on the bellows and only one hand on the keys, but they set it up with foot pedals like a field organ, and she played it with both hands, more like a piano. And she and Swamiji sang duets together, and they sang solos, and then they led us in beautiful singing. And I had never felt the presence of, well, really almost the presence of God, but certainly never the presence of Christ as I did that night. I said in another place that one line from one of the Christmas carols is, "Angels we have heard on high," and I really felt that night that I was in the presence of angels, and that reverence for both Jesus and for Christmas has stayed with me ever since. And reading the commentary, which actually came a little later, I felt this attunement with the life of Christ, which has been a characteristic of my spiritual life, really pretty much all the way through. And as some of you know, recently I took a pilgrimage to Israel, which was actually my second pilgrimage, but the second one had a very different quality than the first one for various reasons. There's a whole satsang about both trips, so I don't need to explain it, but this year, I was in the holy places. I was in the cave where Jesus was born and the Holy Sepulchre where he was resurrected, and the whole story just a little over a month ago. So coming into Christmas this year has just been, there is truth in the reverence that mankind holds for these great souls, and it can't be reasoned out, it can't be figured out with the mind, but it can certainly be felt with the heart. And in our Palo Alto community, as Ananda does all over the world, following Master's example, Jesus is one of the gurus on our altar, and we really give our heart to a true experience of Jesus in our Christmas Eve service especially, and our Christmas Day service. Christmas Day, we tell the Christmas story for children, and of course many adults say, "Oh, finally I understand it." When you reduce it down to its simplest elements, we all really understand it, and we capture that childlike wonder. And then Christmas Eve is the holy, most sacred part of it. I want to invite you, because, thank you God, because we're in Dwapara Yuga, we put up our cameras and our microphones, and wherever you are in the world, you can join with us in welcoming the Christ child, which is a beautiful story in itself, with the angels and the shepherds and the wise men. I become very childlike with my enthusiasm at Christmas, but that childlike is balanced by this profound awakening of that Christ consciousness within, represented by this whole story, but experienced as our own reality. So with all my heart, I wish you a deep and blessed Christmas and invite you to join with us in our celebrations. God bless you.